Hey guys, my name is Matumio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that can be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Justin, and it is, my friend had an interesting concept a while back. Instead of killing the opposing player, what if counter-knifing actually pushed away the opponent? Then it could be the first person to pull up their gun, consequently giving PDWs, for example, an advantage. I would love to hear what you think. Well, this is definitely one of the more unique suggestions that I've heard for trying to fix the counter-knifing. But one thing is for sure, that the Battlefield community is not happy with the way that the system works right now. You would not believe how many suggestions and ideas I hear every single Sunday mailbox. Like, it's absurd on how people would like to improve things. Some people would like it to be where whoever spams their knife the fastest will win the counter knife. They would maybe have a random combinations of buttons that they have to press, and while all of these I think would probably be better than the system that we have right now, overall I think we would just be better off if we eliminated it from the game entirely. What was wrong with Battlefield 3's system? It was still very humiliating if you were able to get behind an enemy. You went through that brutal animation just slashing them right in the throat, but also it didn't punish you if the enemy turned around at the last second and caused you go through this ridiculous animation. Essentially, if you go for a frontal knife in Battlefield 3, you slash him in the face for 50 damage. And of course, if you want to take someone out from 100% to 0, then you're going to need to go for another slash. And while you may not come out of it alive, I mean, you're bringing a knife to a gunfight, at least it doesn't take all the power away from you going through an animation that you probably couldn't have predicted. I'm not alone in this. I know a lot of you have had these moments where a guy just zips around at the last second. You had no idea he was going to look at you. You press the button, you go for the frontal knife, not wanting, of course, to go through a frontal knife, and then you're back at the spawn screen because of this dumb mechanic. I would much rather just do 50 damage to the face. Maybe I would get lucky and get another slash on in there before he's able to take me out with his assault rifle, but at least all of the control isn't taken away from me. We could sit here all day long bouncing ideas off each other on how to improve it. Your suggestion is one way to tackle the problem. We could add in a random button generator, but in my opinion, just the idea of having a counter knife in the game is a flawed concept and a mechanic. It just does not feel fun when you're on the receiving end. It's not rewarding when you're able to kill someone with a counter knife. And so, at least my 2 cents, I would like it to just be reverted back to what it was back in Battlefield 3. It would remove all of the headaches and be a much better experience. The next question for today comes from John, and it is, what do you think of an EMP grenade that does no physical damage against players, but disables items such as spawn beacons, tugs, and any remote controlled vehicles in its blast radius? It would also be able to blind tank cameras for a short period of time, allowing you to get up to a tank to destroy it. What are your thoughts? Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that EMP grenades exist. I know that there are EMP devices that can knock out electronics, but I think that the grenade part is still science fiction. That being said, though, if they really wanted it to add it into Battlefield 4, they could have done that easily with the Final Stand DLC. We have hover tanks, for goodness sakes. They have the railgun. Adding in an EMP grenade wouldn't be all that far-fetched. And while one part of it that you just described I think would be useless, the knocking out electronics, knocking out vehicle electronics, on the other hand, would be crazy powerful, and it brings up a very interesting discussion. The reason why I say knocking out spawn beacons or the tugs wouldn't be all that beneficial is because all of the other grenades can do just that. Like, if you know that a spawn beacon is in the other room, just throw in your frag grenade and it's going to get the job done just as well as an EMP grenade. The only way I could see the EMP being better is if it had a huge blast radius, like maybe it would knock everything out in a 20-meter radius. Like, that would be impressive, but even still, I would have a hard time justifying using that grenade over the frag if that was the only benefit. The thing that interested me, though, is the idea that this would knock out the camera of a vehicle for a couple of seconds. Now we're getting into some interesting concepts, because at that point, we are now giving a device or a grenade to every single class, I'm assuming every class can use it, that can devastate a tank driver. If I was playing as the support and I knew an enemy tank was looking at me, throw this at them and use that couple of seconds to either run away or close the gap and throw C4 on them while they have no idea what's going on. That could be a very deadly combination. And so I'd like to get your guys' take on this. Do you like the idea of having a grenade that would knock out the camera of a vehicle for, you know, maybe 5 seconds maximum? It's not going to do any damage, it's not doing direct damage, but if you're working together with your teammates, or let's say an assault player has that grenade, throws it on in, then gives the support class the opportunity to take it out safely, that could add in a very interesting dynamic. It could also be blatantly overpowered and not what Battlefielders want, and so that's the reason why I'd like to get your guys' take. Probably will never be added onto the game, but it is a really cool idea. The next question for today comes from John, and it is, in order to reduce how annoying the UCAV is currently, how about just making it louder? I was killed several times in a row by someone using a UCAV today, and I kept hearing its propeller just in time for me to do absolutely nothing about it. However, if it was louder from a longer range, then people who are paying attention would be able to disperse before it crashes, thus preventing an enemy from getting a multi-kill. This is actually an amazing idea, because you're absolutely right. The game right now, currently, does not give players enough information to react to a UCAV that's flying in their direction. If I had a loud audible sound that indicated that a UCAV was flying in the air, I would disperse from my teammates. I would duck for cover, and if it gave me a good couple of seconds, I can use that information to my advantage. I may not live every single time, even if I know that the UCAV is flying my way, but if I have that brief moment, that brief window to get away from my teammates, at least that support player didn't get a free multi-kill. The airburst variant is ridiculously powerful. And while I realize why DICE added it into the game, they wanted to give the support class an effective way at taking care of rooftop campers, at least with its current implementation, it's not easy to balance it out. I mean, it's a flying C4 device, essentially, and you can deploy this from the safety of your base with no enemies around you, and you can get a guaranteed free kill. I've seen montages where people will stand next to ammo crates or the commander crate and just spam this all game long and go 50-0. There is one guy on Battlelog that has a kill death ratio of like 100 or something like that because he abuses it every single game. He also uses the mortar, and he just sits in the backfield on rush spamming this downrange the entire match. Probably not the most enjoyable experience for everyone, but at least for this guy, he has found his niche. He has found what brings him happiness into the game. But it's a gadget that is very challenging to balance simply because of the core mechanic of flying through the air and exploding on an enemy that's 1,000 meters away. DICE, of course, has tried to balance it out. To their credit, they wanted to make sure that it wasn't completely broken, and they increased its cooldown. And while it was definitely appreciated, I still think that your idea would be a great step in the right direction. I mean, giving players more information to react and knowing that a UCAV is up in the air, I can't see that being a bad thing. Like, as long as they use that information to their advantage and duck for cover, or maybe just disperse, not allowing the enemy support player to get a guaranteed multi-kill, would be fantastic. I love this idea, and honestly, I would have no qualms if they added this into the game. The next question for today comes from Lars, and it is, what do you think about having a secondary gun that you can shoot when you're on a quad bike or dirt bike for the driver, so that when you're alone on the bike, you don't have to switch to the passenger seats? I really like this idea, and admittedly, I think it would be great if you could use your pistol on more than just on the different vehicles, or like the transport vehicles, but also on different objects such as the ladders. I think I've talked about this in the past, but I would love to be able to use my pistol when climbing up a ladder. I don't think I'm alone. I'm sure this has happened to you on numerous occasions as well, where you're about to get to the crest or the top of a building. You're about to hoist yourself up there, but the last second, when you peek your head over, you realize that there is a sniper looking directly at you. you have a couple of options at that point. You can jump off, brush it off as time wasted and move on over to another objective, or you can risk it going through that very lengthy animation of hoisting yourself on top of the rooftop and hope and pray that the recon with that bolt-action rifle has the worst accuracy in the history of Battlefield. You might be able to live. You might be able to bring up your primary and quickly dispose of him, but that's not going to happen very often. And most people that are on the roof aren't just recons. You'll also come across people that are playing as the assault class, and an assault player is going to have no problem at all quickly taking you out. But how amazing would it be if you could use your pistol to try and take them out? You're still going to be at a disadvantage. You're not going to all of a sudden just turn into Zeus throwing lightning bolts from the ladder. You're going to be stationary. You're going to be using a secondary against a primary, but at least it gives you a fighting chance. I think that would be fantastic. With regard to using it on transport vehicles like the dirt bike, I also have no problems with that. Some of you might be thinking right now that this doesn't sound realistic at all. Like, no one in the real world would be able to maneuver a dirt bike over these terrains and shoot someone. And while I can see that viewpoint, at the same time, if they ever did decide to add this into the game, I honestly don't think it's ever going to be added into Battlefield 4, or may not even happen in a future Battlefield title. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, because it probably won't happen. But if it was added on in, it would not be overpowered in the slightest. I mean, someone is killing you with a pistol on a moving vehicle. They probably deserve to get that kill. It requires a crazy amount of luck and a crazy amount of skill. And so while I really like the idea, especially if they added it to like the ladders and things like that, I wouldn't expect this for Battlefield 4 or really for a future Battlefield title, but I do think that it would be a fun addition into the game. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.